Today we will be discussing the topic of voting. The reason I chose voting was because it is very important to our society, our community, and, of course, the most recent election for president. Voting is nothing new to the American citizen, as after you are old enough to view TV or read media on the internet, you no doubt come across a political ad. For many of us, this can be a nuisance or something we simply skip over. For the purpose of this speech, I will encourage you to dig deeper and question harder on every political person that is running for office to ensure that you are represented by the best possible candidate. Voting is not something that should be taken lightly, as we have seen in our most recent election cycle for president. We will discuss in what I hope to become an open forum on why we should voice our opinions, protect our freedoms granted by the Constitution, and translate the politicians or our vision into reality. Simply put, voting is a method by which groups of people make the decision in the republics of the world. Generally, we have the right to vote for the elected officials, candidates, and ballot questions. Our country has made many positive steps forward through suffrage to allow a broad amount of the general public the right to vote. Starting from 1787 in our general history, we allowed the people the right to vote, which totaled only a small percentage of the population. Generally, rich white males had the strongest voice. Fast forward to today, and America has evolved to be more equal on the ability to vote. If you are native born or a U.S. citizen over the age of 18 and not a convicted felon, you have the right to vote in this country. One drawback is still the low number of women and varied ethnicities represented in the political field, which is slowly changing. The importance through our history, we have fought so hard to earn the right to vote, and very few people are exercising this freedom. There are two things that politicians and government love: a disinterested population that does not speak up, and an uneducated public. When we do not speak our minds or research into topics that we value to find the best candidates, the system will eventually reach a breaking point. In this instance, we see the elected powers by those that did vote restrict freedoms or try to remove them slowly from the disinterested public. On average, the person representing you in Congress at national level is roughly earning $1 million. After all their income is accounted for, or equivalent of 18 American families' yearly income. When you are voting for the representative, ask yourself if that candidate is worth the amount of investment by yourself or the country at large. This leads us to the importance of preserving our quality of life. As an American, it is easy to look around and take things you see for granted or will always be there. There is always a constant struggle between your rights and the agenda of government bodies sees as necessary, such as the Patriot Act, which led to the Snowden reveal of information in the most recent WikiLeaks type organization to form. Getting the people involved in caring about their own interests is getting more and more difficult as we move through the digital age. Many people seek to fight from their computers at home, which make little to no impact when the people do not march on Washington as we did in the late 60s. The disinterested public is what will ultimately allow corporations and policies to tear down our republic. To preserve our way of life, no matter what class you are from or stage of life, it is important that you utilize your freedoms. When we all work together, we can form a new vision of tomorrow. One thing to take into consideration as we view our tomorrow with this current election is the voter turnout. Thousands of Americans have vocally asked how we ended up in our predicament with our candidates. The simple answer: roughly 9% of eligible voters in the U.S. voted in the primaries, leaving 161 million Americans not caring or supporting the 9%'s decision. In Kansas, the statistics were similar, with eligible voters sitting roughly at 2 million in 2015 and only 113,000 voted in the primaries to choose candidates. If you are at work and only 9% of people actually did their job, would it be a good place to work?
No.
Think about a hospital, restaurants, or even schools. Let that statistic sink in for a moment and think about the negatives. We all need to be cautious of using the elections as a way to share our vision of or support one we feel is the direction to go. Through effective leadership and support of the people, the right candidate can change what we want to see. If we remain silent, the government will run on its own and choose its own direction. That is why it is very important for us to all vote. In conclusion, to say voting is a huge responsibility is an understatement. It is an essential to keep our voice, way of life, and our future in check. One vote can make a difference, and with enough of us together, we can speak out that we want leadership that is innovative for the future, ready to face new challenges, and challenge the status quo. When you consider your vote, especially if you feel it means nothing, remember you are not just affecting our generation, but you are affecting the generations to come up that will have to solve the problems that we ignore because we are too lazy to vote. We have the power to change the face of our country with one ballot. Make sure your voice is always heard and exercised to protect our great republic for all of our citizens and upcoming generations. Thank you. Is there any questions?
Do you think it's better to vote uneducated than to not vote at all?
I think it is better to vote uneducated because you're still putting in an opinion. Whether you really know or not, at least you're voicing and using your rights. So, is that it? Well, thank you.